we're on. Hi, everybody. We are so excited. I am especially so excited to be back with the teacher-to-teacher community here on Facebook Live. This is Sarah Brown Wessling. For those of you who have been with us before, I think that you know what a wonderful community of teachers this is. For those of you who haven't been with us before, welcome, and welcome to what I think you're going to soon find is the best part of Facebook Live, which is being able to connect with amazing teachers in that chat window. So as you are listening and watching on Facebook, connect with all of those other teachers who are also joining us here this evening. Speaking of joining us here this evening, this is an extra special Ask Sarah Live because I have the amazing Josh Parker, who is here with us. Josh, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with Sarah Brown Wessling. Glad to join her and just to talk about what is, I think, close to both of our hearts and many of you joining us. So just glad to be here tonight.
Absolutely. So just as a little point of reference, Josh is an instructional coach at Paul Laurence Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C., also the 2012 Maryland State Teacher of the Year. And he kind of gave us this nice intro. We are here tonight to talk about culture, both the culture that we live in our schools, and then the cultures that we create, both within our classrooms and in those hallways and places with our colleagues. We both know why this is so important right now. We are in November, and anybody who is close to a school knows that this thing happens in October in schools, right? You kind of hit this dip, and the reality of everything that's at stake kind of comes to fruition. And I think what really happens in October and November is that we start to do the hardest work. And when we start to do the hardest work, it feels like the hardest work. There's a struggle. It always feels to me like what Mary Oliver calls crossing the swamp. You know, it's just, it's slow and difficult. But that's why we're here. We're here to kind of talk through some of that. Yeah. So I want to jump right in to some questions that you all from the community posed to us earlier in the week. And then I want to make sure to let you know that as you pose questions in that chat portion as we're going to try to answer some of those as well. So Josh, let's get started with this first question. It comes from Sammy.
Okay.
And Sammy says, according to a study, the emotion teachers feel most is frustrated. She asks, why do you think this is? So I don't know if you're ready to jump in first. You want me to?
You know what? I'd love to hear your take on this. I'm so interested.
Yeah.
So, your take
so I understand that sense of frustration. I totally get it. Right. And I really get it because I think frustration for us feels most poignant when we don't really feel like we are listened to, or we don't really feel like we are heard. And I think every teacher can point to stories or can point to anecdotes, times when they really felt like their students weren't hearing them, maybe it was colleagues who weren't hearing them. But I think the thing that really strikes me about this question is essentially what to do about it, right? We agree that it exists, but what do we do about it? And for me, this is kind of a question about inside and outside, right? Okay. So, and I think we talk about this in terms of our lives all the time. If the inside isn't working, the outside can't work, right? But I think it's also true in the context of school. So when things inside the classroom get frustrating, things outside of the classroom get even more frustrating. Right. Because we do feel like there's this thing that maybe we can control inside the classroom, and then that just exacerbates when we're outside of it. And so I think what we have to do when we want to combat this sense of frustration is, first of all, to to realize it's an okay feeling, right?
Right.
And maybe instead of recognizing frustration as something that we should be afraid of, something that means we're doing a bad job, which I think is usually what the self-talk is,
Sure.
I think we can look at frustration as just maybe like an earmark and say, this frustration really means we need to slow down in the classroom. We need
Sure.
to pay attention to what is most important. We need to go back to our most trusted strategy, right? The thing that rebuilds that confidence, that kind of helps us combat that frustration. And then when we can manage it in the classroom, I think we're more kind and more empathetic and compassionate outside of the classroom.
That's so interesting. Like hearing you talk about that, like this idea that frustration can be a place that we can rest and retool. People don't want to stay in frustration, you know.
No.
That's the conventional thinking is let me leave frustration as quick as I can so I can get on with the rest of my life, live, love, do whatever I do, and teach, you know, like a champion, not to quote my man Doug Lamar.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think you saying frustration is a place to stop and to sit in and to live with, and then to use it as a prompt to become our better selves is really insightful, Sarah. I gotta say, I think you hit on this thing. Once you sit down in frustration, I think you find the tension.
Right.
So there's the tension on the one side of here's what I want to do with my kids.
Right.
Here's the stuff I see on movies. Here's the inspirational quotes that I read, Teacher to Teacher, and other places. I want to do this. Here's the reality of what I deal with every day.
Yeah.
I deal with the things that my instructional coach, who I am, tells me to do. My assistant principals tell me to do. I have the park or whatever consortium tests you have. I have all these different things. Then I have the tyranny of time. So I don't have enough time to get everything in. So when I've sat down in frustration, like you so eloquently said, Sarah, then I feel the tension of what I want to do and what I have to do. And when I don't feel like I have enough efficacy to live between the two poles, I get frustrated.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think you're right. It does come back to that tension, right?
Yeah.
And our human desire to get out of it as fast as we can.
Yep.
But we probably need to figure out how to stay in it, right, long enough.
I mean, let me tell you this too. To be honest, something that I'll be a little vulnerable here. Something that I have been thinking about lately is my frustration a response to feelings of powerlessness? Like, is it that I feel like I can't control my environment enough, my classroom, the results that I want to see quick enough? And then my response to that feeling of powerlessness is just to be frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.